What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest stars walks onto a morning talk show expecting a friendly conversation and instead gets ambushed by a host who seems determined to destroy him on live television? In just 35 seconds, a simple question turns into an all-out war that ends with cameras shaking, producers scrambling, and Kevin Hart walking off the set of The Today Show, leaving Savannah Guthrie sitting there in complete shock as the entire studio falls into chaos. And then this is the story of how one morning show host forgot that respect goes both ways, and how one guest refused to let anyone treat him like he was less than human. Kevin Hart arrived at the Today Show studio that morning like he had done 100 times before. He was there to talk about his new comedy special, to make people laugh, to have some fun. The kind of appearance he could do in his sleep. He walked onto that set with a smile, waving to the audience, shaking hands with the crew. This was supposed to be easy. This was supposed to be fun. But the moment Savannah Guthrie started talking, something felt off. Kevin sat down on that couch next to Hoda Kotb and Al Roker, and right away you could see Savannah had a different energy. She wasn't warm. She wasn't welcoming. She had this look on her face, like she was about to prosecute someone in a courtroom, not interview a comedian on a morning talk show. "So Kevin," Savannah started, and already her tone was sharp. "Let's talk about your career." Kevin smiled, nodding. "Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to..." Because Savannah cut him off, leaning forward with this aggressive posture. "There are a lot of people who question whether you're actually talented or if you just got lucky." The studio went quiet. Hoda's eyes went wide. Al Roker shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The audience didn't know whether to gasp or stay silent. Kevin's smile faded just a little bit. "I'm sorry." "Yeah, what?" "I'm just saying what people are thinking," Savannah continued, and there was this smugness in her voice, this attitude like she was doing everyone a favor by attacking him. "You're short. You're loud. You basically play the same character in every movie. Do you ever worry that people are just tired of you?" Hoda tried to jump in. "Savannah, I don't think..." "No, it's okay," Kevin said, holding up his hand. His voice was calm, but you could hear the edge creeping in. "Let her finish. I want to hear where this is going." Savannah sat back, crossing her arms like she had already won something. "I'm just asking the questions that real journalists ask, Kevin. Not everyone is going to blow smoke at you." "Real journalists," Kevin repeated slowly. "Okay, so you think attacking someone who came here as your guest, who took time out of his morning to be on your show, that's real journalism?" "I think holding celebrities accountable is real journalism," Savannah shot back. Al Roker tried to lighten the mood. "Hey, how about we talk about the comedy special? I heard it's hilarious." "We'll get to that," Savannah said dismissively, not even looking at Al. Her eyes were locked on Kevin. "First, I want to talk about the fact that you've made millions of dollars doing the exact same thing over and over. Don't you think that's kind of lazy?" The audience was dead silent now. You could feel the tension radiating off that set, like heat from a fire. Kevin laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh you give when you can't believe what you're hearing. "Lazy? You're calling me lazy?" "I'm saying what I'm saying," Savannah replied with this little shrug, like she didn't care if she was being disrespectful. "No, no, no," Kevin said, sitting forward now. "Let's really break this down. You sit here every morning, reading off a teleprompter, asking questions that other people write for you, and you want to call me lazy? I write my own material. I perform in front of thousands of people. I put in the work. What work do you put in, Savannah?" Hoda put her hand on Kevin's arm gently. "Kevin, maybe we should..." "I'm good, Hoda," Kevin said softly to her, because he knew she was trying to help. "I appreciate you. But I need to address this." Savannah's face was turning red now. "Excuse me? I've been a journalist for 20 years. I've covered major news stories. I've interviewed presidents." And now you interview comedians on a morning show, Kevin said. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't sit here and act like you're Barbara Walters when you're being straight up disrespectful to someone who came here in good faith. I am not being disrespectful, Savannah snapped. I'm being honest. There's a difference between being honest and being rude, Kevin replied. And you crossed that line about 5 minutes ago. Al Roker cleared his throat. Maybe we should take a quick break. No, Savannah said firmly. We're not taking a break. Kevin, if you can't handle tough questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. Kevin stared at her for a long moment. Tough questions? You haven't asked me one tough question. No, you've just been insulting me since I sat down. I insulted you by asking if you're talented, Savannah said with this fake innocent expression. You didn't ask if I was talented, Kevin corrected her. You said people question if I'm talented. You said I just got lucky. Those aren't questions. Those are accusations dressed up as questions. Hoda tried again. Kevin's new special is actually breaking records right now. The numbers are incredible. Numbers don't mean quality, Savannah said dismissively. The Kardashians get big numbers too. Kevin's jaw tightened. Did you just compare me to the Kardashians? I'm just saying that popularity doesn't equal talent, Savannah said. But you didn't say that, Kevin responded. You specifically brought up the Kardashians. Why? What's the point you're trying to make? Savannah waved her hand. I'm saying that anyone can get famous these days. It doesn't mean you're good at what you do. Al Roker looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. Hoda was shaking her head slightly, clearly uncomfortable with where this was going. So let me get this straight, Kevin said, and his voice was getting louder now. You invited me here to promote my comedy special, but instead, you're sitting here telling me I'm not funny, I'm not talented, I'm just some lucky guy who got famous for no reason. Did I get that right? I didn't say you weren't funny, Savannah argued. You didn't have to say it directly, Kevin fired back. You've been implying it this whole time. And you know what the crazy part is? I actually respected you before I came on this show. I thought you were a professional. But this is just mean. This is just you being a bully because you can. I am not a bully, Savannah said, and now her voice was rising too. I'm a journalist doing my job. Your job is to make your guests feel attacked? Kevin asked. Because if that's your job, congratulations. You're doing great. Hoda jumped in again, her voice more forceful this time. Okay, I think we really need to redirect this conversation. Kevin, tell us about... No, Hoda, Savannah interrupted. Kevin clearly has something he wants to say. Let him say it. Oh, now you want to let me talk? Kevin said. Because you've been cutting me off and talking over me this entire time. I have not been cutting you off, Savannah protested. You literally just cut off Hoda, Kevin pointed out. You've cut me off at least 3 times. You're doing it right now. The camera operators were glancing at each other, unsure if they should keep filming. The audience was completely frozen, watching this unfold like a car crash they couldn't look away from. Savannah leaned forward again, and her voice dropped to this cold, deliberate tone. Kevin, maybe the problem is that you're so used to everyone kissing up to you that you can't handle a real conversation. Kevin laughed again, that same bitter laugh. A real conversation? You think this is a real conversation? This is an ambush. This is you trying to make yourself look important by tearing down your guest. I don't need to tear anyone down to look important, Savannah said. Then why are you doing it? Kevin challenged. There was a pause, a long, heavy pause, where Savannah didn't have an answer. Al Roker tried one more time. Listen, everybody, we've got a great show today. Why don't we... Al, with all due respect, stop trying to save this, Kevin said, but his tone with Al was completely different. It was kind, almost apologetic. I know you're trying to help, man, and I appreciate it, but this needs to be addressed. He turned back to Savannah. Here's what I don't understand. What did you think was going to happen here? Did you think I was going to sit here and just take it? Did you think I was going to smile and nod while you disrespected me on national television? I didn't disrespect you, Savannah insisted, but her voice was wavering now. Yes, you did, Kevin said firmly. You disrespected me. You disrespected my work. You disrespected the audience who came here to have a good time. And honestly, you disrespected yourself by acting like this. Hoda was nodding slightly, clearly agreeing with Kevin, even though she couldn't say it out loud. Savannah's face was completely red now. You know what, Kevin? If you're so offended, maybe you should just leave. The entire studio gasped. Actually gasped. Out loud. Kevin sat there for a second, just staring at her. Are you serious right now? If you can't handle this interview, then yes, maybe you should leave, Savannah repeated. And there was this challenge in her voice, like she was daring him to do it. Al Roker's mouth fell open. Savannah, come on. No, Al, it's fine, Kevin said, standing up slowly. He was completely calm now, which somehow made it even more intense. If that's how she feels, I'm happy to respect her wishes. Hoda stood up too. Kevin, please, you don't have to... Hoda, you're amazing, Kevin said, giving her a quick hug. Al, you're amazing. This is not about you guys. And you've been nothing but kind to me. He turned to Savannah one last time. But you? You need to figure out what kind of person you want to be. Because right now, you're being the kind of person who thinks being mean makes you important. And that's just sad. Savannah stood up, her hands shaking. Get out of my studio. Your studio? Kevin repeated. This isn't your studio. This is NBC's studio. And I'm pretty sure they'd rather have me here than deal with whatever this is. Security! Savannah called out. The entire crew froze. Nobody moved. Because nobody wanted to be the person who escorted Kevin Hart out of the building. Al Roker stood up now too. Savannah, stop. Just stop. Stay out of this, Al, Savannah snapped. No, Al said, and his voice was firm in a way nobody had heard before. This has gone way too far. Kevin is our guest. You don't treat guests like this. Hoda nodded. He's right. This is wrong, Savannah. Savannah looked around, and you could see it hitting her that she was alone in this. The audience was on Kevin's side. Hoda was on Kevin's side. Al was on Kevin's side. Even the crew members were shifting uncomfortably, clearly not supporting what she was doing. Fine, Savannah said, her voice tight. Everyone can side with him. I don't care. It's not about sides, Kevin said. It's about basic human decency. Something you seem to have forgotten. He started walking toward the exit, and the whole audience started clapping. Actually clapping for him as he left. Supporting him. Showing him that they saw what happened, and they knew who was wrong. Savannah's face went from red to white. Stop clapping, she yelled at the audience, but they didn't stop. They got louder. Kevin paused at the edge of the stage and turned back one more time. You know what's really sad? I came here excited. I was ready to have fun, make people laugh, talk about my work, but you couldn't let that happen. You had to make it about you. You had to prove something. And all you proved is that you don't deserve the platform you have. Get out, Savannah screamed. I'm already gone, Kevin said calmly, and he walked off the set. The cameras kept rolling, capturing Savannah standing there, shaking with anger, while Hoda and Al just stared at her in disbelief. The audience was still clapping. Some of them were even cheering. One of the producers ran onto the set, trying to signal for a commercial break, but the damage was already done. This was live television. Everyone saw it. Everyone heard it. Savannah sank back into her chair, her hands covering her face. I was just doing my job, she said, but her voice was small now, defeated. No, Hoda said quietly. You weren't. Al sat down slowly, shaking his head. That was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever been a part of. The producer finally managed to cut to commercial, but in those last few seconds before the screen went black, you could see Savannah sitting there, realizing what she had just done, realizing that she had just humiliated herself on live television, realizing that she had just made Kevin Hart, one of the biggest stars in the world, walk off her show. And the worst part for her? Everyone watching knew she was wrong. The audience knew it. Her co-hosts knew it. The crew knew it. And most importantly, Kevin knew it. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He didn't lose his temper. He simply stood up for himself, called out the disrespect, and walked away with his dignity intact. Meanwhile, Savannah sat there in that studio, surrounded by people who had just watched her reveal exactly who she was when she thought she had the power. And it wasn't pretty. The commercial break felt like it lasted forever. When they came back, Savannah was gone. Just gone. Her seat was empty. Hoda and Al were sitting there, trying to figure out how to move forward with the show. Well, Al said, trying to inject some lightness into the moment. That was certainly unexpected. Hoda looked directly at the camera. We want to apologize to Kevin Hart and to all of you watching at home. That is not how we conduct interviews on this show. That is not who we are. Al nodded. Kevin, if you're watching, man, we're sorry. You deserved better than that. The rest of the show was awkward, uncomfortable. Every segment felt off because everyone in that studio was still processing what had just happened. The other guests who were scheduled to appear later kept asking if everything was okay. The audience members were whispering to each other, replaying the confrontation in their minds. And somewhere outside that studio, Kevin Hart was probably shaking his head, wondering how a simple morning show appearance had turned into a battle for basic respect. Because that's what it really was. It wasn't about tough questions or hard-hitting journalism. It was about one person deciding that she had the right to belittle another person just because she was sitting in the host chair. It was about someone forgetting that the people who come on these shows are doing the show a favor by appearing, not the other way around. Kevin Hart didn't need the Today Show. The Today Show needed Kevin Hart. And Savannah forgot that. She forgot that respect is earned, not demanded. She forgot that being a good interviewer means making your guest comfortable enough to give good answers, not making them so uncomfortable that they have to defend their entire existence. She forgot that millions of people were watching, and those people could see exactly what she was doing. The internet exploded within minutes. The social media was flooded with clips of the confrontation. People were taking sides, though the overwhelming majority sided with Kevin. They saw a man who came to do a job and got attacked for no reason. They saw a host who let her ego get in the way of basic professionalism. But this isn't about what happened after. This isn't about the aftermath or the consequences or the public reaction. This is about what happened in that moment, in that studio, when one man decided he had had enough. Kevin Hart walked onto that set as a guest. He walked off as someone who refused to be disrespected. And that's the story. That's what matters. Because how many times have you seen celebrities sit there and take it when an interviewer is being rude? How many times have you watched someone get attacked and they just smile and try to move on? Kevin didn't do that. He called it out. He stood up for himself. And he left when it became clear that the situation wasn't going to get better. That takes courage. That takes self-respect. That takes knowing your worth and refusing to let anyone diminish it, no matter how big the platform is, no matter how many cameras are rolling, no matter how much pressure there is to just play along. Savannah tried to make Kevin look small. She tried to make him seem like he couldn't handle real questions. She tried to position herself as the brave journalist willing to speak truth to power. But what actually happened was the opposite. Kevin made her look small. Kevin made her seem unprofessional and petty. Kevin showed everyone watching that he was the bigger person in that situation, literally and figuratively. When he walked off that set, he wasn't running away. He was walking toward his dignity. He was walking toward self-respect. He was walking toward a future where he didn't have to sit there and be somebody's punching bag just because they felt like punching. And Savannah, she was left sitting in that chair, facing the reality of what she had just done, facing the cameras that captured every second of her breakdown, facing co-hosts who clearly didn't support her actions, facing an audience that had turned against her. That moment when she realized she was alone, that was the moment it all came crashing down. Because in her mind, she probably thought she was doing something brave. She probably thought she was asking the tough questions that other people were afraid to ask. She probably thought the audience would respect her for it. But they didn't. They saw through it. They saw that it wasn't about journalism or accountability or anything noble like that. It was about ego. It was about someone who wanted to feel important by making someone else feel small. And that never works. Not really. Because at the end of the day, people remember how you make them feel. The audience will remember how uncomfortable they felt watching Kevin get attacked. Kevin will remember how disrespected he felt sitting on that couch. Hoda and Al will remember how helpless they felt trying to stop it. And Savannah will remember the sound of that audience clapping as Kevin walked away. She'll remember the look on her co-hosts' faces when they realized what she had done. She'll remember that moment of standing there, yelling at someone to get out, and knowing that she was the one who looked foolish. The cameras captured it all. Every word, every expression, every moment of tension building until it finally broke. And once it broke, there was no putting it back together. Kevin didn't come back. He didn't storm back onto the set for round 2. He didn't send an angry tweet or make a statement. He just left. And sometimes, leaving says more than any words ever could. It says, I don't need this. It says, I deserve better. It says my time and my dignity are worth more than whatever this is. And those are powerful messages. Savannah wanted to be memorable. She wanted to make a moment that people would talk about. Well, she got her wish. People talked about it. They're still talking about it, but not in the way she wanted. She's not being praised for her hard-hitting questions. She's not being celebrated for her journalistic integrity. She's being criticized for her lack of basic courtesy. She's being called out for treating a guest like an enemy. She's being recognized as the person who messed up so badly that Kevin Hart walked off the set. And that's her legacy from this moment. Not the tough journalist, not the fearless interviewer, the person who was so disrespectful that one of the most professional, easygoing celebrities in Hollywood had to leave. Because Kevin is known for being gracious in interviews. He's known for being funny and charming and making everyone around him comfortable. If you manage to make Kevin Hart uncomfortable enough to walk off your show, you've really messed up. That's what makes this whole thing so striking. It wasn't some notoriously difficult celebrity having a meltdown. It was a generally beloved entertainer reaching his limit with someone who refused to show him basic respect. The whole confrontation probably lasted less than 15 minutes, but it felt like an eternity for everyone involved. Every word that was said hung in the air. Every uncomfortable pause seemed to stretch on forever. Every attempt by Hoda and Al to redirect the conversation just highlighted how out of control things had gotten. And through it all, Kevin tried to stay calm. He tried to be reasonable. He tried to explain why what was happening was wrong. He gave Savannah multiple opportunities to course correct, to apologize, to just acknowledge that maybe she had gone too far. She never took those opportunities. She just kept pushing, kept attacking, kept insisting that she was right, and he was being too sensitive. And that's what sealed her fate in this story. Because if she had stopped at any point and said, you know what, Kevin, you're right. I came at you too hard. Let's start over. This would be a different story. It would be a story about a rough start to an interview that got better. A story about two people finding common ground. But she didn't do that. She doubled down. She tripled down. She told him to leave. And when he actually did it, when he actually walked away, she seemed shocked that he had the audacity to take her up on her offer. That's the thing about making threats or challenges. Sometimes people call your bluff. And when they do, you better be ready for the consequences. Savannah wasn't ready. You could see it in her face. The moment Kevin stood up, the moment he started saying goodbye to Hoda and Al, the moment he turned to walk away, you could see the panic start to set in. This wasn't supposed to happen. Guests don't actually leave. They just sit there and take it. But Kevin wasn't just any guest, and this wasn't just any situation. This was a line being crossed, and he wasn't going to pretend it wasn't happening. So he left. And in leaving, he made a statement that was louder than anything he could have said if he had stayed. He made it clear that there are limits to what he'll tolerate. He made it clear that fame and success don't mean he has to accept disrespect. He made it clear that he values himself too much to sit there and be someone's target practice. And really, isn't that what we all should do? Isn't that the lesson here? That you don't have to sit there and take it when someone is treating you poorly? That you can stand up, speak your truth, and walk away if that's what needs to happen? Kevin gave a masterclass in self-respect that morning. He showed millions of people watching that it's okay to defend yourself. It's okay to call out bad behavior. It's okay to leave situations that are harmful to you. He did it with class. He did it with clarity. He did it in a way that left no doubt about who was in the wrong. And that's powerful. Meanwhile, Savannah learned a hard lesson about the consequences of letting your ego drive your actions. She learned that being mean doesn't make you strong. She learned that attacking your guests doesn't make you a good journalist. She learned that sometimes, when you try to make someone else look small, you're the one who ends up diminished. The studio fell silent after Kevin left. That heavy, awkward silence where everyone knows something terrible just happened, but nobody knows quite what to say. The kind of silence that feels like it's pressing down on you, making it hard to breathe. Hoda and Al sat there, looking at each other, looking at the camera, looking anywhere but at Savannah's empty chair. Because what do you say after something like that? How do you move forward? They tried. They really tried. They brought out the next segment. They smiled at the camera. They did their jobs. But you could feel it. You could feel the weight of what had just happened hanging over everything. And that's where this story ends. Not with some neat resolution or happy ending, but with the raw, what uncomfortable reality of what happens when respect breaks down, when egos clash, when someone pushes too hard and someone else pushes back. Kevin Hart walked off the Today Show set that morning, and he took with him any illusion that this was just another friendly celebrity interview. He exposed the ugliness that can happen when a host forgets that their job is to serve the audience and the guest, not their own need to feel superior. He left Savannah Guthrie sitting in the wreckage of her own making, facing the consequences of her choices, dealing with the reality that she had just become the villain in a story where she thought she was the hero. And that's the story. That's what happened when a simple morning show appearance turned into a battle for dignity and respect. That's what happened when Kevin Hart decided enough was enough. No dramatic music, no clever editing, just the raw truth of a moment that went terribly wrong because one person forgot that kindness matters more than being right. This is what happens when you forget that every person deserves respect, regardless of who they are or what they do. This is what happens when you think your position gives you the right to tear others down. This is what happens when you confuse cruelty with courage.